Anyway, my suicide joke is my favorite joke and my wife's favorite joke, and is always takes a minute, but you get it. When things were really, really bad, I decided to end it all. So I went up into the bathroom and I took a bunch of pills.
Mhm.
And afterwards, I called down to my wife for help. She said there are more pills under the sink. Very helpful. I know. I know. It takes a few seconds.
Actually, it did actually.
It
I was
does,
like, wait
yeah.
a second.
And the people who laugh the hardest are in the shows are the people that have kind of had suicidal ideation or family members, and it takes them just a second, then and it's belly laughs and laugh out loud funny because who's
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to help you live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to be here sharing insights and stories that will empower you to embrace your true potential. I truly appreciate you for taking the time to be here and join us on this journey of self-discovery and growth. Now, imagine your brain as a tangled garden with some paths, overgrown and hard to navigate. When faced with the severe mental health crisis of bipolar disorder, our guest Dave Mowry found that his garden had become almost unrecognizable. However, through the transformative power of humor, he discovered the tools to clear the way, to get rid of those thorns in the weeds. Just like cultivating a garden requires patience and care, so does healing from trauma. Comedy has become the sunlight that nurtured new growth for Dave, creating fresh neural pathways that aided in his recovery from PTSD and other challenges. Through teaching stand-up comedy, Dave empowers others to find laughter in their struggles, fostering a sense of purpose and connection. By sharing their stories, individuals begin to feel less alone, knowing that they are not the only ones navigating the complexities of mental health. Dave is a successful businessman turned stand-up comedian whose journey through bipolar disorder has transformed not only his life, but the lives of countless others. With a passion for storytelling and a knack for humor, Dave teaches stand-up comedy to individuals facing mental health challenges, and his work has made significant strides in helping those individuals find their voice and reclaim their narratives through the laughter. Now, in this episode, Dave shares his remarkable journey of recovery and resilience, highlighting how humor has been a pivotal force in his healing process. His insights into the therapeutic effects of comedy are incredibly relevant as they illustrate a unique approach to addressing mental health and fostering connection among those who faced similar struggles. So now that we've got the table set and we're ready to go, let's turn to our conversation with Dave. Enjoy. Hey, Dave, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for making the time to be here, my friend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. This is great. I've been listening to some of your podcasts, and I really enjoy them.
So thank you very much. Appreciate that. I mean, this, as I said off the top before you hit record here, this is for me. I consider this a blessing to be able to engage in these types of conversations, and I find it so exhilarating to know that you and I can have a conversation about whatever we'll get into, and someone can overhear that and can make a difference in their lives. Like that kind of power. It's not, well, it's first of all, it's awesome to be a part of, like that kind of transformative change. And so it always excites me to be able to sit down and talk with great individuals like yourself. So again, thank you for helping me sort of fulfill my mission and purpose. So it's a big deal. Thank you.
You bet.
We talk often on this podcast about, the whole concept of, living your best audacious life and, what that means. And, I often, when I start these conversations, I sort of equate it to this path that we're on. Like we're on our own individual path and, we're on our own individual journey, and, they're not necessarily the same as others. There could be some similarities, but, we're all doing our own thing, and we have our own set of obstacles, trials, tribulations, challenges, all the stuff that we don't like, but we got to go through. I heard the expression, life is is lifing, right? So we've got to go through these lifing things. And so, but the big part about that, what's really, really important is that, once we're able to overcome these things, the other side of that is just where it's wonderful and great. I always say that, on the other side of the obstacles where all the greatness lies. And so it's incumbent us to continue to push and go ahead, because that's where we'll see, all the things that we're that are bestowed upon us. So, so having said that, you yourself have had your own journey, right? You had to deal with mental illness and bipolar and all that comes with that. And there's a lot that comes with it. And so maybe as a starting point, Dave, I can get you to sort of open up here and let our listeners know a little bit about yourself. And you call it your elevator pitch. Let's hear your elevator pitch and let's talk about how you got here and what you're up to now.
I could, I'm kind of like an onion with layers, but the short version is a successful businessman, had everything going for me and my wife and the family. And then one day I was driving down the freeway. I was under a tremendous amount of stress. My mind was going and my mind just snapped. I could hear it. It was like a twig snapping, and I could feel it. It was like a small electric shock. And muscles in my face went slack, and my brain went dull, my vision blurred, and it was everything I could do just to get home and get in bed. And I spent the next 14 years, I don't know, broken's the right word, incapacitated, disabled, just unable to function. And slowly, thanks to my wife who stayed with me and who's the hero of my story, I started to recover. And at one point, I went to NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they have a local affiliate, and they brought in a comedian who teaches stand-up comedy to folks with a mental illness. And he put on a show when he came down before the class, and I saw the show and I thought, I'm as funny as he is, and I have no idea why or what. So I took the class. Turns out, I had a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma, a lot of,
Right.
A lot of stuff. But I took the stand-up comedy class, looked for the humor in my challenges, my hardest times. And the more challenges you have, the more material you have for humor. And so I had lots of material. Turns out I could write jokes. They were laugh out loud funny. My sense of humor is not the same as everybody else, but if I think something's funny, other people think it's funny. So I started writing jokes for myself. Then I was writing jokes for other people. Then the class ended and they wanted to keep going. And that's how I started teaching stand-up comedy to other folks with mental illness. Changed my life. Instead of me being triggered or hearing a song and going back to those dark days and that trauma and that PTSD, when I'd hear something or think about those past traumas, I'd say, where can I find the humor in that? Changed everything. It changed everything. Changed the pathways in my brain, helped with PTSD. And so now I'm recovered. I'm here. I can talk to you, which is, hey, it's huge. And yeah, the
That's
audacious
awesome.
part of living, going through those 14 lost years and then coming out the other
Oh,
side,
man.
and here we are.
That's so thank you. That's I literally have no exaggeration. I'm getting goosebumps. Just I was like, it's such a wonderful story because of the fact that it's the complete story. Oftentimes, we don't tell the complete story. You hear individuals talk about the things that happen to them, and that's where the story begins and ends. And that journey that you just described, I think is beautiful that your wife is your hero in your story, to identify those support systems that made a difference to you. That's all part of the story as well, too. Not just the bad stuff that happened and all the negative feelings that associate with it. It's what you do to make it out of the other side. And when you can tell a story like that, you're now empowering others who might be going through a similar journey and thinking that no one else understands. And you've gone, well, no, now they understand. I lived it. Here's I got through it. And so I think that's a wonderful, wonderful place to be from your perspective. So thank you for sharing. I am a little curious. So at the very beginning, you sort of talked about just suddenly just being it hit you, if you will. Was there a trigger of any sort that sort of gave you an indication, like I'm not well or something's wrong or I'm off, like anything like that, or it just appeared?
I've kind of had the bipolar disorder all my adult life, but it was, when as I got older, the highs got higher, the lows got lower. And
Mm,
so there was I had that sense. I was kind of like on these 3-year cycles where things were good and then things were not so good and back and
gotcha.
forth. So, but I didn't know what that was. And I didn't have a clue that, I mean, I was stressed. My mind was racing, tremendous stress. Constant, day, night, all the time, having a hard time sleeping. But I had no idea about what was going. There was no indication in my mind. I didn't see it coming. So it just came, and frankly, I was broken. I was just I was just I was just broken.
Mm. And sometimes we've got to get broken to get fixed, right? You got to rock bottom. Is as difficult as to tell someone, no, get all the way to the bottom, then we'll get you fixed. It's actually, I think it's a terrible message actually, but I do understand sort of the lengths that people have to get to. So I hear you loud and clear on that.
Yeah, it's if I wouldn't have broken, so to speak, then I would have my life would have been the up and down, the highs higher, the lows lower, and um, I can't imagine my life before that. But now, having been broken, gone through those 14 lost years, the year and a half of being homeless with the family, and all those things. Um, I got the support I needed, I got the help I needed, and
Nice.
I was able to come out the other side. Whereas before, I don't know where I'd be. I'd just be existing, I guess. And you know, I mean, yeah, life's good on the other side. If folks
Sure.
out there, if anybody's got a wondering, yeah, come out the other end, and life is good. Life is good.
It is, and there's an expression I heard that life gets better the better life gets, and it really, really does. And it's funny I use that expression always and often it seems. But let's jump into this humor thing and how the heck humor helps with this mental illness challenge that we have, and what exactly is happening for us by laughing or finding the funny side of things. What's going on for us then?
Um, when we have challenges in our mind, like I said, the PTSD, or it's in our mind and we're sad, or this thing makes us think, or we get to this point and we resign ourselves to this is how it's going to be. When we do the comedy, when I took the comedy class, when I teach the comedy class, other people come in and take Molly, for example. She was a doctor. She went through med school. She was a doctor. She was practicing medicine, and then due to her mental illness, she had to give it up. She just couldn't do it anymore, and so she was lost. And she was I use the word broken, but she was lost. Her mom brought her to a comedy class and said, "Hey, look, Molly is suicidal. You know, I hope this helps. This is the end." So Molly came to the class, and we started looking for the humor in her story, and we found it, and she found it. And what happens is if you heard of neuroplasticity, our brains, we have pathways in our brains, and we develop them over time. And with the comedy, we develop new pathways. So we're looking at something and looking for the humor in it. And Molly went through the class. Now she performs stand up around town, and instead of seeing herself as a failed doctor, she sees herself as a comic, and she's telling her story one joke at a time, and she's got purpose. And that happens in the class over and over. So with the comedy, it's just a different way of thinking, and it creates new pathways in the brain. And um, you know, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, that's what it's
Yep.
based on,
Yeah.
is seeing things, looking things in a different way. And that's that's exactly what happens with the comedy.
Good for Molly. Congratulations. I love the idea of how the new vision she has for herself, right? Because
Yeah.
when you're in that haze or fog, you can't see anything, right? And now that you can stand and go, yeah, this is who I see I am, and I'm not this failure. I'm actually this great thing, and so that's a beautiful place to be. I the part that really does fascinate me, and I say fascinate from the standpoint because not more people are aware of this. So, for example, you think of whether it's bipolar that you dealt with or some other mental health challenge, anxiety, what have you, and to know that there are those that use humor to find healing, i.e., Molly, while others, this thing is like debilitating and crushing their lives. And it's like these two sides of the same coin here. And part of it is it just a matter of choice? Is that the difference?
It's we don't get to choose, so it's just how we're wired. So,
Okay.
but the comedy isn't, comedy works. It's not available to folks. It's not something that's known or, so people with anxiety, they're living with it and they have no idea that there's another option. So it's not I don't believe it's a choice. It's just there are a lack of
Mhm.
options.
Mhm.
And our brains are funny things. They I have an anxiety joke if you'd like to hear it. It's a short, simple one.
Can't wait, man. Let's go.
When this is just easy. When I was 20, I worried about what people were thinking about me. At 40, I stopped worrying about what people were thinking about me. And at 60, I realized they weren't thinking about me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
As, and but well and a big part of jokes is always that element of truth to it, right? That's what makes jokes funny, and this is exactly what it is. How often are we in our heads consumed with what we know is happening for the other person, and they don't even know we exist, right? But we've dedicated energy and time and brain power into this thing that's not even anywhere remotely close to being true.
Exactly. The best jokes always it's based in truth.
Yeah.
And then the punchline is the creative part. But the based in truth part is really important for folks that are living with a mental illness, because you take
That's right.
that hard time, you take that worst experience, and then look at it and work at it and create, and the whole process is freeing, and the whole process is healing.
Yeah. Take me on the transition from using humor for your own healing to teaching others. Like that's those are two polar opposites here. So what was that transition? What did that look like for you?
It was I took the class and I wrote my jokes, and then I found myself writing jokes for other people in the class, and then they wanted to keep going, so then I facilitated that, and so it just evolved, and then I started teaching the and I think, I have lots of hard times, lots of material for jokes, and I was just able to spot the places in other people's stories where there was opportunities for humor. So teaching the class, being on the other side is, teaching is healing for me. I mean, I still come up with jokes for myself. They just happen. I don't work at it. They just happen. But helping other people find the humor in their stories and see the healing, like with Molly. Molly's mom said,
Mm,
the comedy saved her life.
gotcha.
Not to be, overly dramatic, but yeah, I believe that. So yeah, teaching the comedy, and the people come into the comedy class and they'll say, okay, I'm going to take the class, and but I'm never going to get up and perform. And by the time they're done with the class, they can't wait to get up and tell their jokes on stage. And then the first thing they say when they come back off stage is, when can I do it again? It is so freeing to tell your story with humor and have people laugh. One of the things about the classes is we have laugh out loud funny jokes. They're not,
Okay.
they're just laugh out loud funny, and the audience laughs. We've never bombed, and it's just so healing and so freeing. And people see
So
themselves as comics. They see themselves
right,
differently,
right,
They see their lives completely differently. It's, they're it turns from sadness about
right,
what we've lost
right.
to finding humor and a future and an opportunity. And it helps in so many different ways.
And I can also see it them like an opportunity to tell my story. Like this is my opportunity to tell my story in my own way. Um, I'd love to hear how you and maybe this is kind of getting to a bit of a process, but how do you get someone who says I'm not going on stage to, hey, when can I do it again?
It's not something, I set out to do. What it's just kind of this natural evolution, this organic thing that once we're in the class, people will come in and say, I'm here and my life has been terrible and blah, blah, blah. And there's nothing funny in it. And, we find the sense of funny. And by the time they are taking their story, the truth of their story, and then finding the humor in it, that set up the punchline. And, they want to tell their story. They want to tell their jokes. They've come up with
Yeah,
the jokes. I mean, I've written hundreds of jokes, but it's a process that we do together. And so they find the humor in it, and they want to tell that story. They want to tell that joke. They want people to hear that joke. Uh,
that's
it's
amazing.
it's it's empowering when you have you can tell your story with humor. A lot of people too. Also, I'll go off on a bit of a tangent here. People with a mental illness, sometimes it consumes us. So that's what we talk about. So we're in a situation and we meet somebody or whatever, and pretty soon we're talking about our mental illness, and we overshare, and people can't wait to escape and get away from us. But if we have some humor and we see that, then we can talk to other people, we can listen to other
Yeah,
people, then there's an opportunity to share some humor, and we're not telling our sad story.
yeah,
We're becoming whole people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it really helps with relationships and interactions with other people.
And Dave, I really see the importance or the significance of storytelling when we talk about that mental health journey. Or, I mean, it helps you to see and yourself through those transitions, right? When you shared your story, I right off the bat I said, hey, it's not the story didn't end when the bad stuff came. That was just a part of it. Like there's a whole process, and so I also see where by telling your story, and in this case, humor is that vehicle to tell your story. By telling your story, you're actually aiding in your overall recovery, I would say.
Definitely telling your story, writing your story, getting it out, because we spend so much time in our heads, and we get up in the morning, at least for me, I'd get up in the morning and it was everything I could do to just to be. I mean, I was just holding it together. I was just to be. I was in my head and I couldn't get out.
Mm,
And so to tell the story and get out of my own head, and for other people to get out, just get
yep,
out of our heads and think of something different. Think differently, a different way of looking at things, and it makes it, you know, it's that. And so telling our stories, telling your story. I blogged for bphope.com, and
okay,
I wrote a couple books, and I wrote about my time living with my mental illness, the hard times, the challenges. And I told stories, 800 words at a time every other week. And the blog post, most common comment was, OMG, that's me. You're telling my story. I don't feel so
mhm,
alone now. And
mm,
the posts have been read by over 1 million people. And that's, uh, so I was able to tell my story that helped me heal. The feedback helped me
yes,
feel better, that I'm helping other people. Other people reading it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Other people are
yes,
going through
yes,
these
yeah,
things.
Yeah.
Whether it
Yeah.
be hiding in the shadows or suffering in silence or, I mean, I couldn't go to the mailbox because if I saw a neighbor and they looked in my eyes, I knew
Right.
they'd see into my soul.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
I ended
Right.
up going to the mailbox at night. So I didn't see anybody. I mean, I'd isolate, I'd hide
Right.
you know, I, so and I write about that. People see that. People say,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's me." I
Hmm.
feel that same way. I
Yep.
know people can look in my eyes and see into my soul, and. And the other thing with me is you talk about imposter syndrome. I pretended to be okay a lot,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was so much work,
Work. Yes.
and
It would be.
it was just took so much energy just to pretend to be okay, and then when people look into your eyes, they can see it. I can see it, maybe just because I've lived through it, but you can look into somebody's eyes and you can see it if you really
Yes.
look. So
Right. Right.
I meet people and I talk to people and I can get a sense of who's a fellow traveler on the mental health journey.
Mm. And you again the healing pieces. I'm glad you touched on a few times and referenced it because that's really the key in all this. Like the end goal is to get healthy, and again the humor and the comedy and the stand up is just a vehicle to get you there. And ultimately, it's getting to that place where you are healed. So I can't say enough about how significant that is. I would also imagine when we get into even the topic of resiliency as an example, I could see that this would be huge in terms of allowing us to be more resilient, or something I call bounce backable, right? Like it allows us to bounce back from situations by something like finding that what I can see happening, Dave, is like it's almost like you're looking for the humor in situations to be able to tell a joke about it, right? And that just becomes fun at that point, right?
Well, it does become fun. And I've written a lot of bad jokes that nobody will ever hear. But I'll sit down sometimes, I'll get inspired or whatever, and I'll sit down and write 12 or 15 jokes. They'll just come, and it's the sense of calm, the sense of peace, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of
Sure.
hope, all these different things. And I think, when you're writing jokes and um, there's there's hope that's a part of that because you're writing jokes and you look forward to telling them to somebody else.
Hmm.
So there's that, and with the healing, I'd say, healed. I don't know if I'll ever be healed, but but um, I've still got my challenges. I've still got my ups and downs. I've still got my hard times, but I
Sure.
know that it's not going to last. And once I start looking for the humor in that experience, then I start really healing and coming out the other side of even those small things.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that you're still on this journey, because I think it's important to know that it is an ongoing journey. And I don't know, to say that you're healed isn't always the most accurate. I think you're healing as you continue on, and I would imagine that even in your role now of teaching others stand-up comedy, that's been profoundly impactful for you. I wonder if you could sort of talk about how it's helped you now that you're teaching others to find this humor in their situations.
Creative, and again, being over my head. And when I'm teaching other people, I find additional humor, different humor in my experiences also. So it does a couple things. It's creative. I love the creative part of it. And when you're stuck in your head and you're going through the hard times, you're not creative. You're just stuck. And so the creative part is really wonderful. It gives me purpose. I mean, I've got purpose. It's really given me purpose, and I have purpose in other directions, other parts of my life as well. But it's given me purpose, and then helping other people is what I've always told my kids and my grandkids. Like when they were going out the door to school, is do something nice for somebody today.
Mm.
Eh,
I love it. That's great advice.
Yeah, that's kind of my, if I can look to do something nice for somebody every day, then, it adds a little goodness to the world, and I
You're
feel
right.
good about it. Every
No, you're
time I do
absolutely right.
something nice for somebody, even no matter how small. And if somebody's in a relationship, a marriage, or a tough time, even if you're having a really tough relationship time, look to do something nice for each other, no matter how small. Um, it helps tremendously. Helps
Love it.
tremendously get past that
Love it.
anger or that frustration or whatever it is.
Mm. No, I love it. I think it's great advice, and kindness is always a wonderful pathway. So much beautiful things, and so that's a great, great, great lesson. Um, Dave, listen. I've really enjoyed this dialogue, and I've really enjoyed the insights and the perspectives. I think again the manner in which you're harnessing humor from the perspective of to heal or start that healing journey is absolutely wonderful. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to share another joke. I'm dying to hear another one you got. If you got one to share, I won't put you on the spot here, but I mean, you're stand up, right? So you're used to being put on the spot, right?
Yeah, no, I've got one. And it's my wife's favorite joke.
Okay.
And it's suicide's never funny, right? And but anyway, my suicide joke is my favorite joke and my wife's favorite joke, and is always takes a minute, but you get it. When things were really, really bad, I decided to end it all. So I went up into the bathroom and I took a bunch of pills.
Mhm.
And afterwards I called down to my wife for help. She said there are more pills under the sink. Very helpful. I know. I know. It takes a few seconds.
Actually, it did actually.
It
I was
does,
like, wait
yeah.
a second.
And the people who laugh the hardest are in the shows are the people that have kind of had suicidal ideation or family members, and it takes them just a second, and it's belly laughs and laugh out loud funny, because who finds the humor in suicide? And
Right.
I was in that place, and I sat with a gun in my lap, and I didn't do it.
Mm.
But yeah, the truth in that joke is, yeah, I mean, I was in that place, so that's truth. And then the rest of it is, and it shatters stigma. It makes people feel like, oh my God, you can talk about that. I can talk about this. I can think
Yeah.
about this, and it's okay. So that's one. And hey, you know, yeah, I got lots of
Got you.
jokes. I
Well,
think you got time for one more?
yeah. Oh, please. I'll make room for sure.
Okay, well, with the mania and hypomania, you get, I mean, uh, you get hypersexual, sexual, and you just, it's in your mind and it goes on. And unfortunately, I was so inept at it, I didn't have any affairs or anything. Not that I didn't think about it. And then with the depression, but knowing, for me, one of the hardest things, not knowing who's going to wake up in the morning. I didn't know if it was going to be, me feeling okay or the me that couldn't get out of
Right.
bed. So, but anyway, I finally figured out how to tell if I'm manic or if I'm depressed.
Okay.
And when I'm depressed, I do everything I can to get out of bed. And when I'm manic, I do everything I can to get my wife into bed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That is a clear distinction, if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I think there should be a dating service for people with a mental illness.
Okay.
I can see the postings now. Paranoid white male seeks paranoid white female to share compound in Idaho. And paranoid female seeks paranoid male for with no government connections. And my favorite, dual personality female seeks dual personality male for double dates. I know. I know.
I like the compound.
Huh?
Of being able to seeking to share a compound together.
Yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Dave, this has certainly been a lot of fun, man. Again, this is the work that you're doing is marvelous. It truly, truly is. And using humor, which is something I'm a fan of, as a way of positive impacting others is beautiful. It really, really is very natural and such a healthy way of getting healthy. And so certainly I want to commend you on your work. Commend you first and foremost on your journey. Is like, I know I acknowledged it previously, but it can't be overstated how important that was, because that essentially set the stage for everything you're going to do afterwards. And you've beautifully laid out a framework that others now can follow. So you're really making a positive difference in a big, big way. So congratulations to you and your journey. And thank you for being here as a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. And actually, before we go, if we can let listeners know where they can catch up with you or find you if they wanted to tell jokes, learn how to tell jokes like you.
Couple things, reach me on Facebook. Just do Dave Mowry on Facebook. Message me. I reply to all. And, wherever you're at, whatever you're thinking, I listen, I talk, I support. I'm, just somebody who, is there. I've also, like I talked about the blog posts, and in my book, OMG, That's Me, it's a compilation of the blog posts, and that's sold over 20,000 copies, which for a self-published book, you usually sell 50 copies to friends and family, and then it goes off into the ether. So, it resonates with people. And then OMG, That's Me 3 is about the comedy. It's the story of Molly and other people that have gone through the comedy class and found the humor. So, Facebook, and then I'm on LinkedIn. And then if you're on Dave Mowry Bipolar, or just Dave Mowry, there's a few pages there. Good.
We're going to make sure that everyone connects into that. Dave, this has been great. Thank you for the time, and all the best, my friend.
Thank you. You too. It's great to have been with you.
Back we are here on the podcast. And, one of the key takeaways from my conversation with Dave is the profound role that humor plays in our mental health recovery. By shifting our perspective and looking for the funny side of life, we can cultivate resilience and create new pathways in our brains. Dave's personal story exemplifies how embracing humor can transform our darkest moments into sources of strength and connection. What I love most about, this conversation with Dave was his genuine passion for helping others. His ability to find the light in the shadows of mental illness not only inspires those around him, but also serves as a powerful reminder that we are never alone in our struggles. I encourage you to connect with Dave directly. You can find him on Facebook under Dave Mowry, where he's always open to messages and support. I highly recommend checking out his work and engaging with him as he continues to make a difference in the world of mental health. Additionally, you can check out his book, OMG, That's Me, which is a compilation of blog posts detailing his experience with bipolar disorder. And his latest book, OMG, That's Me, dives into the stories of, OMG, That's Me 3. That one dives into the stories of others who found humor through comedy, showcasing the healing power of laughter. And of course, the contact details in the show notes below, and I encourage you to check that out. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. Your support means a world to us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, follow, subscribe, or share if you haven't already done so. Together, we can continue to grow this community and inspire others to live their best audacious lives. Until next time, remember to embrace your journey and find humor in every situation. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.